just doing the normal checks, making sure that I really am live before speaking, and then we can start. So it's has diverged a bit, thank goodness. So looks like we're going to get a slightly different game. I was seriously worried about that, I'm afraid, but okay, we're going to have a little look, and hopefully we'll get an interesting and exciting game. Yeah, the previous game was sort of interesting actually, but not so exciting. So let's hope for some thrills and spills now. Yay, we seem to be live. I'll just check my sound and then we'll be off. So it's has diverged a bit, thank goodness. Great, okay, fantastic. Yeah, so let's just play through the game as well. We'll play it right from the start. So c4, knight f6, knight c3, d5, takes, knight f3, g6, h4, h6 was the book, which is a pretty unusual line, but quite logical. I mean, h6 is a pretty normal response to h4, and yeah, I mean, when I prepared the system for white, my idea was to play e4 or d4 and transpose into a normal Grunfeld position, but with the extra moves h4 and h6. And I had the feeling that this turned a number of different systems from the long complicated lines leading to equality of the normal mainline Grunfeld. I thought that it turned them into into things that were quite promising for white, really. But I mean, the hope was to get some sort of typical Grunfeld structure. In the we follow the Leela Stockfish game for a little while. Bishop g4, rook b1, queen c7, d5, knight d7, and here Leela played knight h2, which was yeah, an interesting idea in principle, but it somehow didn't lead to all that much. Let's just have a look in the what is this actually? We'll just have a look at oh, this is the actual state of play. I want to have a look at the previous game, so just bear with me. So yeah, what actually happened in this game was that white played knight h2, which I think I had already seen in one of the test games I played. I'll have a look at them a little bit later. Bishop e2, queen e2, e6, takes, and this move c4 is quite, in principle, it's quite strange, giving up the d4 square. But Leela had yeah, interesting idea here, just to go bishop b2, and then to play this move e5, and then follow up with knight g4. And my first thought when I saw it was that this should be quite promising for white. The bishop on g7 is quite passive. We've got some, well, we're attacking h6 pawn. We've got knight f6 check possibilities. Kingside's quite weak. It felt like it might be quite promising, but I guess the white position just isn't solid enough there. And yeah, I mean, rooks can come into f4 to attack the knight on g4. We've got knight d4 to disrupt, and somehow it didn't quite come into anything. I mean, Leela couldn't really find a good plan here, and so ended up playing this line. But yeah, I mean, there's some little initiative for white in a way, but obviously it wasn't enough to trouble Stockfish. So what has happened in this game is that white played c4, and then after e6, Stockfish has played the very sharp d6, and now queen b8. So this is pretty interesting. I mean, this is yeah, a very different type of game, and yeah, again, quite typical Grunfeld, really. So we've got this this undermining of the pawn chain or attack of the pawn chain with e6, and that you meet it then with d6 is quite common. Also quite risky for white because yeah, the chances of losing that d6 pawn are also quite present. So could be very interesting. But looking at the Stockfish PV, we're heading for some interesting play. Let's have a little think. I'm just going to have a quick look now for the games that I had from my test games, and we can have a little look at what they are. Some of them I remember just like that. These I don't. I seem to remember that the Stockfish played Leela's Knight H2. I seem to remember that, but I'm not 100% sure. So let's have a little look. Yeah, I've got some dragon games, games against Komodo, against Stockfish, and also against Leela as well. So let's have a look at what we got. What am I going to do here? I think I'm just going to give me 1 second whilst I fiddle around and get this pushed to a PGN, so I can do this. And this was anti-Grunfeld. Summary. Right, okay, and if by the magic of science we are able to open this, great. Is that what I'm... Sorry, I thought I'd got a PGN with all of the games in there, but somehow I only seem to have one of them. Let's have a look. Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand what's happened. Edit game list. Just a little bit confusing. So I'm just do forgive me whilst I struggle terribly with this. So, okay, we are now sort of ready there. Board, game list. Yeah, okay, so we'll start off with the game Stockfish against Stockfish, which we will go onto here. So in actual fact, after c5, Stockfish from 24th of March played quite entertainingly, played bishop b5, bishop d7, rook b1, bishop g7, but it's somehow transposed to back to our stuff, because after bishop g4, bishop e2, queen c7, haha, we are back there, d5, knight d7. And played c4, e6, and then bishop b2, which, if I compare to our current game, c4, e6, we've met e6 with d6 in actual fact. So what you can see is that we got this position, Stockfish against Stockfish from Stockfish from 24th of March, and here we got bishop b2 from Stockfish, and it was quite an entertaining game, I have to say. So let's have a little play through that. Takes, cd, rook e8, d6 came in now, rook d1, rook e1, queen e3, takes, and this ending was quite I thought very well played by Stockfish. Really kept the balance here. And I think this is a little bit better for white, but not too terrible. And Stockfish held the balance quite nicely. In the reverse game, this was also quite exciting, I have to say. So castles, and Stockfish went knight d7, so it didn't play any plan with bishop g4, it just went knight d7, and I remember that this was in Stockfish's PV at some stage the idea of going knight d7, and we got this ending with Stockfish, and Stockfish tried to win this one. Nah, it's a little bit better for white, but not too much, and Stockfish held it quite comfortably in the end, even if it looks a little bit just a little bit scary. But with the rook on c5 here, you're going to break the pawns up. That's working quite well. Then we have Stockfish against Komodo here. So Komodo also went knight d7, but here Stockfish really went for it and went h5, g5, and a4. So the rook's pawns are all over the place. And now e5, a very typical attack. And I mentioned it actually as an idea in the during the first stream there. That yeah, I mean this h5, it's opening up the black king side. We can play e5 to get pressure along the b1 h7, having awful problems defending its king, though it did a pretty decent job. But somehow this just ended up being too much for white. Two bishops, two connected passed pawns, and yeah, and black's knight really in very big problems there. So Komodo sacrificed the piece, and then Stockfish gradually reeled Komodo in. So that also seemed you know, quite interesting, and especially as yeah, Stockfish had played knight d7 against Stockfish, and then, you know, there was this very aggressive possibility that it played when Komodo played knight d7. Dragon against Komodo, what do we have? Again, knight d7 from Stockfish, and we got this bishop f4, and this one was also very interesting. You know, just we get again this plan with e5, and then h5. And yeah, I mean, I thought Komodo was somewhat better along the way, but yeah, didn't quite manage to make anything of it. But this was a slight edge. But somehow Stockfish managed to hold everything together, and this yeah, queen ending, queen versus rook ending wasn't anything in particular. And then we have the Leela games, which I can't really remember, I have to say. It's a long time ago. So again, Stockfish playing bishop f4, knight f6 rather, and oh yeah, Leela went for this ending as well. And yeah, I don't know, had an edge here, but didn't manage to make more of it. But it was quite yeah, I mean, just quite pleasant for white in general. And then afterwards, what did we have? Stockfish-Leela. Yeah, funnily enough, this knight h2 move yeah, this knight h2 move, but here with Leela having put the knight on a5, which was kind of risky, really, you know, because so Stockfish Stockfish just gave up this h4 pawn, and then played for this structure. That was pretty sharp, and Leela was sort of fighting on the edges here to yeah, get some counterplay. It looked quite promising for white, but somehow Leela held in the end. But it was quite a fraught game. So so yeah, I mean, those were the test games that I played, and yeah, I mean, they weren't. It wasn't an opening where I said, you know, the test games were really the most exciting and the wildest. But I thought that that this opening might have, you know, quite a lot of interest. Especially, you know, Stockfish was playing knight d7. Leela was looking for another plan, so it looked quite interesting from that point of view. But yeah, of course, as it happened in this actual game, yeah, they played. They just played both different plans with bishop g4. Always difficult to be absolutely sure, but yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting, and this game at least is quite different, so that's very nice. Bishop b3, b6, queen d2. So hitting that pawn on h6, which is obviously gaining an important tempo. h5, rook bd1, queen b7, knight g5. Takes and takes. So, what is happening here? And rook e8. Oh, Leela playing quite fast there. Stockfish playing quite slowly. So what plans does White have in this position? I mean, there's a couple of very tempting ideas here. Obviously, if you could get in f4 and e5 and sort of hold that properly, that would be very nice to block in the bishop on g7. There's another idea to play something like g4 and attack this pawn on h5, which, yeah, I mean, could also be quite a dangerous plan. The question is whether these things are really possible at the moment. So let me just get the PGNs, and then we'll do that. So yeah, I mean, the problem is if we go f4 at the moment, then black's just got the simple move f6, you know, and knight f3, there's queen takes e4. So yeah, I mean, f4 immediately. Whoops, f4 immediately is not possible. g4 also. Yeah, I mean, we have this move f6 here, and that's going to be rather awkward. I mean, if I go knight f3, then there's h takes g4, and if I go knight h3, then queen takes e4 is probably awkward as well. I mean, I can do vague stuff like knight f4 or yeah, but I mean, it's not really going to be very good. So we need to find, we actually need to find straight away a counter to this move f6. Now, yeah, I mean, if we want to, I mean, something like f3 is kind of obvious, but it's you know, it's very slow and it's not quite clear what you're going to do afterwards. So in general, the ideas that you would think of would be well, moving this bishop away to protect the e4 pawn. So I guess, yeah, I mean, bishop f4 looks like the natural move. I think that was Stockfish's PV, wasn't it? Bishop f4. Let's have a look at Stockfish's PV. Yes, that's right. So then what is black going to play here? So I suppose, yeah, I mean, e5 is a threat for white. I mean, if you manage to get in e4 to e5, then black's going to be in a little bit of trouble, because, you know, in order to open the king, yeah, for example, if we just make some random move, but you'll have to go f6, and then afterwards there's you know, going to be after e takes f6, there's a weakness on g6, and there's yeah, general weakness of the king, weakness on e6 as well. So black will probably prevent it. I mean, you can do it in several ways. You could go bishop d4, that's a possibility, and then try and play e5 and f6 later. So this bishop might get exchanged even for a knight, but you're just trying to claim really that you're making a huge wedge in the center. The other idea would be to play e5 immediately, and then afterwards, what you're going to try and do, well, you might try and bring a knight, you know, b8, c6, d4. That's definitely one possibility. You've got to watch out a little bit for your king side, but that's yeah, that's probably the safest way of playing. I mean, a move like bishop d4. I mean, I guess something like g4 could get a bit more interesting against this one. The point being, I'm not 100% sure about this, but the point being that you've got this move knight f3, and then you're going to hit the bishop on d4. So that sort of gives you an extra tempo. And if you go e5, I'll go bishop h6, and then I'll manage to get the g file opened. So this would probably be, well, it would definitely be an interesting possibility for white, I think. F takes g4 is, of course, always possible in these lines, but I go queen g4, knight f6, maybe queen f3, something like this. Got to be a little bit careful. I mean, there's also ideas of going rook takes d4. Thinking just in general, the black king is a little weak, maybe. I I mean, what I could also try, is to go e5 in this position as well. Bishop d4 hasn't stopped it. The only question then is whether this counterplay is just maybe a little bit more dangerous. Can maybe take with the rook or even with the knight. And I'm sort of trying to aim at knight g4 and that sort of stuff and go e5. Might be a little bit more dangerous, but yeah, not completely clear. But yeah, I mean, the obvious line there, so e5 is quite natural. And then I've got to be, I mean, what has black gained? Black's gained, the d4 square, but the bishop on g7 has been blocked in. And of course, white's got the d5 square. So it makes the position quite sharp in actual fact. So I'm guessing we're going to move the bishop back to c1. Definitely never here because it's just looking at a wall. And e3, f6 would probably cost the e4 pawn. So after e5, we go bishop c1. And then we have to decide what sort of plan black is going to play here. I mean, what is white going to do if black lets him? Well, I mean, g4 is always an interesting idea now, especially with the weakened central light squares. Another idea simply would be to try and get an f4 somehow. So you could just play the bishop round to b2, and then play for f4 in some way. That can always be dangerous as well, simply because, well, the king's weakened somewhat. We're going to have the f file to attack. And I suppose we can try and combine this with other things. I don't know, with maybe a rook on the d file, maybe doubled rooks on the d file to support the d pawn, and then you do one of these other things. Well, maybe not f4, but maybe more g4. I mean, the thing for white, I think, from a human perspective, the thing that you'd always be most looking at the most all the time would be the plan of playing the knight to b8 and then c6 and then d4. I mean, that's really the plan. Liking stream for visibility. Thanks very much, David. Thanks very much, Gunny. Good to see you on the stream. It's so that's always the plan that's going to worry you the most, because if you achieve it and you haven't got yourself sorted, you'll lose the d6 pawn and you'll lose. So that's kind of the thing that you're always thinking about the most. I mean, what you can say is that when the knight comes to c6, we can put a rook on d5 ahead of that knight, so that knight d4 has a lot less effect. So it's sort of you can probably deal with it okay, but that's kind of the biggest plan that you're thinking about. Now, I heard some crunches, so let's have a look at what's happened. Bishop f4 and then e5. And then we're going to see what Stockfish is saying. Bishop d2. Yeah, if we're looking at the PVs and, well, if we're looking at the evaluations, I will freely confess I'm a bit disappointed about that. I really thought this was more for white objectively, but yeah, seems I was a little over optimistic on this score. So we will see. We'll see what the game, what course the game takes. But this is, yeah, just looking like a slight advantage for white, but nothing. Nothing huge. So what are we going to get here? So what Leela is looking at is some sort of counterattack on the queen side, interestingly enough, with a6 and b5. And now the question is whether is Leela that fast to do it? Yeah, that white doesn't have time to sort of get anything going. I mean, Leela is blitzing out the moves here. Just 21 minutes used, and oh good lord, Canchess, this opening choice cost you 100k troll bits. My goodness, I don't think I've ever even had 100k troll bits, so I can't even imagine how that is. So let's have a look at the PVs and see what both engines are looking at. So Stockfish first of all. Bishop going round to c3, a6, rook d1, rook e1 rather. And Stockfish, yeah, okay, bring the bishop to c7, and then playing for f4. Well, I don't know. This looks quite dangerous to me, I have to say. A4, f5. Yeah, this looks slightly scary for black, but Stockfish doesn't seem too impressed, and he's normally the expert on these matters. This would probably be something like, well, yeah, probably a draw by repetition, I guess. Well, they're not clear. I mean, we can go f6 check and then play queen e4. I don't know, really. I'm not sure. This last position looks quite quite interesting somehow. But so this seems to be Stockfish's plan. It's going to just go for bishop c3, and then it's going to look for f4 just to push. What's Leela looking at here? Leela was looking for queen a4, f6. Interesting move, f6. I mean, it really blocks in this this dark squared bishop. Dark squared bishop might get active through h6, but quite a double-edged move, really. Rook b2 and then b5, and it's okay, fighting with its queen here to do this, and this ending is well, a little bit better for white, but presumably Leela thinks it's all covered. Yeah, I guess this is always going to be rook and 3 versus rook and 2, even with 2 rooks. It's yeah, it's always ending in a draw. We've seen that the Stockfish PV has changed quite a bit. Putting a rook on d5, actually just trying to hold back this queenside play. Swapping off rooks. Yeah, again, this is not. There's always some latent danger here, you know, with the d pawn, and you know, the black king is slightly airy like this, but this looks you know, to be quite decent for black here. Although again, you know, I mean, this feels like if anyone is pressing, it's white here. But we will see what the game actually brings here. Yeah, so I'm just seeing an interesting PV with these double D pawns that quite interesting, but yeah, I suppose you know, in this position, you know, white's going to aim to go knight e4 takes c5. Can get rid of this knight, then the d pawns are actually quite dangerous. Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to see how that goes. I mean, in principle, it's just a slight edge for white, but it's nothing amazing so far, of course. So we'll see how all that goes. Yeah, I think what Stockfish is looking for here is yay! Thank you very much, Ken Chess. That's exactly the right message. It's yeah, I mean, I think Stockfish is looking to play queen d3 because it's anticipating a6 and b5. And it wants to get his bishop to a5 to c7 in one go. So rather than play bishop c3 and play bishop a5 later, it's going queen d3, and then it'll play bishop a5 in one go. So that's just slightly more elegant, I suppose, in general. So so what's just having a quick look at the schedule ahead. Let me just bring that up. F7. So we've got this game, which is the Anglo-Grunfeld, and then we've got the next two openings during the night are Jeroen's, and then 17. Yeah, An early morning start. It's quite a strange opening, this one. I think you'll agree. But just something that one of these funny discoveries that you have when you're analysing with engines, and you just think, well, maybe that might be worth a go. So that'll be a nice little morning wake-up call, and then we'll have two more of Jeroen's openings to round off the day. And so yeah, all quite good so far, I think. Yeah, I mean, looking at the match as a whole so far, pretty interesting, I think. Yeah, this was really just a big old-fashioned crush, I suppose. But this was a beautiful positional game, this one, and this was yeah, these were pretty interesting from a chessy point of view, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, in both cases, Black held the draw quite well, though I thought Stockfish was really getting somewhere in that one. The Czech Benoni was excellent defence from Stockfish. I hadn't expected Stockfish to... thanks, Pezza. I hadn't expected Stockfish to be able to defend like that, just giving a pawn away and relying on just on queenside activity on 2 files without the support of a bishop. But that worked out quite well. This was a gorgeous game, Stockfish against Leela. Those knights, my goodness, those knights. And this was a very fine endgame from Stockfish. You know, just one mistake from Leela 0, and it was all over. So pretty interesting stuff. And then yeah, Leela didn't really get too far against Stockfish in this line, but yeah, I mean, Stockfish had a pretty good opportunity on move 16 that would have given it a very considerable advantage, I think. You know, and so that's a sort of a missed chance for Stockfish, I think. And then, you know, this game, Leela against Stockfish, was slight edge for White, but quite solid. And yeah, this one is again a slight edge for White. You know, again quite solid. So I think in general, you know, I think we can say that Stockfish is you know, deservedly ahead at this current stage. But well, plenty more openings to come, plenty of stuff to come. So we'll see how it all pans out. Didn't you know, Joe Banjo? You cannot escape Can. You learned that in the TCC chat. But yeah, many thanks to Can for doing that. That's really appreciated. So okay, let's see what's cooking here. Leela has played A6. Leela playing pretty fast here, it must be said. So 1 hour 39 taken, and Stockfish is already it's taken 52 minutes already. So yeah, sorry, I'm just seeing that Stockfish is looking at King H2, but it's the PV ends mysteriously. It's just King H2 B5, you know. Just no, just King H2 with AlphaZero games was always the prelude to something violent. So I was wondering whether King H2 was preparing G4 and Rook G1, but Stockfish has decided to be just a little bit more restrained there. And what is the current PV? Rook D2. Yeah, this is sort of... Whoa, Rook B4. Wow. Exchange sacrifice. I mean, all these things are quite risky for Black. I mean, it looks easy when it's done by the engines, but this is actually quite complicated with the passed D pawn. The Black king side's a little bit weak, really. Dark squares are also a little bit weak. You know, it's actually quite more complicated than it looks, I think. But okay, F3 now. So. Solid from Stockfish. He's veering quite a bit, really, between plans here. You know, just sometimes looking for plans on the king side, sometimes on the queen side. So F4. Wow, what a move! E5. Now again, interesting. And now it's gone to something else. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm not sure whether it's true or not, but I have the feeling that looking at Stockfish's PVs, that the plans change enormously. Now I sort of expected that once a basic plan has been settled on, that you sort of do that, but it's really veering wildly from one to the other. Quite human in a way, with with the human thought process, it's you often get asked this question, how do you think? And it's often quite disappointing, really. But obviously there's always the book, Kotov's book on the Grandmaster thinking, and this whole tree of analysis, and that you work through possibilities one by one, etc. I don't think there's anyone who analyses like that, even at home. Although sometimes, for some positions, you really do try it. I think Mark Dvoretsky and his pupils, who later became teachers at his school, they were always really keen on the idea of candidate moves. That when you come to a position, you're looking first of all and working through and trying to think, what possibilities do I have? And you're trying, in that moment to be as broad as possible and really let go of your filters, let go of your preconceptions, and really just think of, really generate ideas and think ideas. And I try to do that as well. That's really something I try to do when I'm analysing, to make a good first start, because there's and to really, it's very important to be quite convinced about it as well. Convinced that in that initial moment that you've found all the worthwhile moves, because if you just do it half-heartedly, then then you're analysing, and then you're always thinking, oh, did I really look at all the possibilities? It's that's very important to really put a big effort into drawing up those candidate moves, and really think and be aware and believe in what you've seen. But after that, once you've done that, I think it's very important to become much more unstructured, because you've got limited time. You have to make a choice between the possibilities, and those possibilities, that's when you're using your filters. To generate the initial moves, you let go of all your preconceptions, as many as possible. But then, to choose a move, you're putting all your filters back. I'm attacking player. This line has chances to attack the opponent's king, that sort of thing. You're having to prune very severely. You can't analyze all of the possibilities, but what you've got to do really is understand what all the possibilities that you've looked at are, and then you go on the move that you want to that you think is best. You start with that one. But you've got to be alert, and sometimes when you're analysing one variation, other tactics or ideas or themes pop up, and they can enrich another line, a completely different line. But you say, oh, wait a minute, this bishop's on c5 is actually bad, so then therefore this move really does make sense, and that's what's happening a lot. You're analysing a certain variation, and you're hoping that it's either that it's the right variation, or that with that analysis it's enriching your thoughts and your ideas about other stuff. But I talked about this with John Spielman, the legendary British Grandmaster, and he said always that his first approach when analysing a position was to think, and of course there you're really using your experience, your filters, your knowledge. It was to say, I think that this move in this position, if my position's good, then I will be able to play this move. I will be able to transfer my knight to d5, or I will be able to put my rook on this open file. And that's the move he analyses first. And then if that doesn't work, if there are obstacles to that, tactical, or it doesn't look good, then says, okay, then my position's not good. And then he starts, looking for stuff to complicate matters. But it was really very much based on with my experience, my knowledge, I know that this move has to be played in this position. And if it can't be played in that position, then my position is bad, and I need to do something about it. And Yeah, I mean, I think that's yeah, a very good, a very practical way of approaching chess. And I think my thinking does tend to be like that as well. I mean, I think some players are very yeah are very rounded, you could say, and they do everything equally well, and they can switch quite easily. And there's some players who are a little bit more. I don't know, maybe the character, you can say the character is stronger, or their range of play is more limited. But certainly I always had a pretty clear idea of the type of positions I wanted to play. And then that would really, affect my the decision I made. So, if I saw, two lines, one where I was playing on the queen side and one where I was playing on the king side with some ideas of danger towards the opponent's king, then, I'd always take the second line. Just that was just the way that I thought. So but it is very interesting. I mean, I really am a big fan of not thinking in too structured a way, when you're working at a position, but really trying to use creativity, to use flashes of inspiration in one line, to use that to enrich another, and then maybe reach another bit of creativity. It's very important to try and do that. And so I think as a professional, I didn't do enough of that, and I tended sometimes to get a bit chained to the board, calculating non-stop, really intensely the whole game. And I think, I don't think that's the right way to play. Michael Adams once told me that the aim of chess is to calculate as little as possible, which I thought was, just a reflection of his at the time, maybe slightly lazy character. But I've come to appreciate it. I think it's a really good thing, and actually, Michael became one of the hardest working chess players, I think, and certainly at the board, when you see him working, he's at the board all the time from beginning to end. It's quite impressive. So rook d5 played by Stockfish. What is Stockfish aiming for? Looking for, just entrenching the pieces, and going to try and bring the, interesting, queen d3, pawn sacrifice there. Yeah, I mean, Stockfish is really trying to get the maximum out of its d pawn. Wow, look at those tactics. To get the maximum out of its d pawn and its and any queenside pressure it's got. It's not looking for a kingside attack, to which we say boo, boo. But you'll never know. Maybe Stockfish will change later. What's Leela looking at? Yeah, I mean, these lines are reasonably similar. Leela's looking to oh wow, that's quite interesting. Move like f5. It's quite ambitious from Leela. That would make things interesting. Yeah, Leela's play is very, very active here. I mean, really trying to shake the opening. It could well be that Leela's feeling a little bit positive here, and actually thinking about forcing the position back to equality or further. So it could be interesting. What's the time situation? 1:36, 1:01. So big time advantage for Leela. Yeah, I think if we look at the this is win percentage. Did I want it? Eval mode, score. Let's put it back to score. I love just from time to time just trying all these features on the. My goodness, look at that eval spike. Yeah, just in general, the eval is all a downward trend really. Started off, reasonably high. I mean, I think both for Leela and for Stockfish, but just somehow it's one of those evaluations that didn't catch fire. Sometimes you get this 0.4 or something like that, and then it just keeps on rising, and other times it just stays there. You know, it's good for white, but just nothing special, nothing, you know, so much more to do. And it looks like this opening is kind of one of those. Well, will be interesting to see. Maybe somebody will start playing h6 now, because it hasn't been played much at all for black. Queen a4 from Leela. So interesting plan, this really is. You know, just to try and just plant the queen on a4, and then just try and you know, it sort of moves forward, and then it tries to pull the b pawn along with it. You know, sort of come on, you want to do this, and the b pawn doesn't want to move. But there's quite I mean, this queen is very good on a4. It's quite hard to move, basically. You know, it's oh, okay, Leela, thanks, Can. Leela sees 15.5% chance of black win, so might explain the active line. Yes, indeed. It's because Stockfish is only seeing yeah, 1% black win. So yeah, I suppose Leela's seeing the position as more volatile than Stockfish here. So f6, insta move, virtually. So yeah, Leela really playing very, very fast here. So yeah, what is white doing here? Well, this knight is coming back to you know, sort of give some support to the queen side. Either going to come to d3 or to or maybe to c2. You know, coming round to e3. Yeah, I mean, this black queen on a4 is pretty hard to remove. It's really strange, but yeah, I mean, white doesn't have fantastic control over the light squares in its position. You can say only the queen is really doing the covering, and nothing else is really assisting. That's because, you know, the knight is always a natural one for that, but that's enjoying itself over on g5, and obviously the light squared bishops exchanged. So so this is quite decent. So I'm guessing Leela's going to insta move again, because this is pretty much this is all part of its main tree, and it's got loads and loads of nodes. Yeah, Stockfish really going in his PV, really going for the mysterious rook moves, I have to say. Look at that. Now going for rook f7 and rook ef8. So slightly announcing its intention of playing for f5 here. So both engines seem to agree that that f4 is going to happen sometime, which, to be honest, is very reasonable here. I mean, this position, yeah. I mean, to be honest, you know, this position looks really dangerous for black to me. I don't like at all how these black pieces are. How about this one where white goes f4? Yeah, I mean, this also looks quite tricky somehow. I mean, once this knight gets to f4, then these pawns on g6 and h5 are quite weak. So okay, thanks, Can. So these the Stockfish win, draw, loss, they're just calculated. They're not what yeah, okay, they're not they're inferred from the evaluation, I guess. But what Leela, the win, draw, loss, that's really what Leela thinks. Thanks very much, Can. That's I wasn't aware of that. So Leela's played rook b8, again quite fast. That's not too surprising, because it's still got yeah, a huge tree. So if well, yeah, I mean, Stockfish is planning to play knight e1, so it might get hit by another insta move. So Oh, wait a minute, I need to unlock Stockfish's PV, don't I think? Yeah, 91 is coming, so Leela will play rook f7, and then, well, then it's a question, does Stockfish play rook b2, or does he play rook c1? At some stage, Leela's insta-moving will stop. Yeah, this insta-moving can probably be quite dangerous, but this is not a position where I think where something enormous can happen immediately. Although, you know, I mean, now that Black has played f6, and yeah, and the knight is back here. I mean, you know, g4 is really screaming at me that I really do want to play that. I'd be, you know, if I was playing, I'd be looking at every move. I mean, actually, I think if I was playing this with white, my approach would be somehow to give up the a2 pawn and then to get in g4 and or f4. Basically, that would be the basic idea. I think, yeah. I mean, I'm a bit surprised in a way by the evals. I mean, if I was white in this position, I'd be assuming that I had a fairly huge advantage or substantial advantage, I think. And the reason for that simply is, you know, the black bishop on g7 is passive, the king looks weak, this passed d pawn is interesting, and yeah, I mean, if black opens the position, then I sort of feel that my pieces are better. But yeah, of course, that could just be, that is probably just wrong evaluation or stupid over-optimism, really. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually slightly surprised by the depressed evals. You know, just that neither Stockfish nor Leela seem really to like the white position that much. Stockfish going up a little bit now, up to 0.62. Yeah, no, knight. You're right, Gunny. Knight d3 immediately allows queen c4. So we'd need to do something about that, indeed. First of all, that's why this queen on a4 is so annoying. You know, it's. Oh, Carlsen would win against Stockfish if it was given knight or bishop odds. Well, they've already done this experiment actually with the Australian Grandmaster David Smurden, who's he's about 25-50, you know, and yeah, you know, 25-50 and a good GM, you know, but obviously not Carlsen level. But he got a piece odds against Komodo and won very easily, ridiculously easy. Actually, oh, a bathtub pawn structure, indeed. Black's bathtub pawn structure. So, yeah, I mean, it was quite funny because we had a huge discussion on David's Facebook page before, and you had lots of gems like me who thought that he was going to lose 6-0, and but he was incredibly confident. But he'd done a lot of preparation for it, you know, working out exactly, you know, which openings he should play. And a number of GMs made the point as well that yeah, a piece was too much, and you would be able to prepare yourself so you know, to be completely safe. And in fact, he lost one game, but that was a blunder when he was much better. And apart from that, he won very easily. Won the match 5-1. So yeah, you know, very impressive. So it looks like in chess a piece is too much, basically. I mean, there was a famous match between the English amateur Terry Chapman, who's about, well, between about 2100 to 2300, and Garry Kasparov, where Gary was giving Terry, I think it was 2 pawns handicap. And now I don't think that no, Terry didn't win the match, but he did beat Kasparov in an individual game in there. So I think, you know, in chess the odds are quite you know, are quite huge, really. Now this is the best chess on the planet by far. Now what we're seeing here with Stockfish-Leela. So yeah, I mean, talking of DeepMind, I mean. I don't know whether you saw the news today, but They'd already done, DeepMind had already done something incredible with AlphaFold, with folding proteins, and now they're using AI to make an enormous database of all protein shapes known to science. You know, it's just it's really yeah. I mean, it's amazing stuff. I don't really understand it very well at all. But yeah, I mean, it sounds incredible, and the nice thing is that, you know, when we were doing this project with DeepMind, you know, for Game Changer, then you know, Demis Hassabis is a huge chess buff, you know, so it was, you know, it was yeah, wonderful for him. I mean, he loved the chess as well, but you know, all of the DeepMind technicians, it was really about, you know, they're not chess players at all, you know, and it was all about yeah, you know, proving the algorithm, proving the concept, and you know, they were thrilled that you know, we were so enthusiastic about the chess, but yeah, somehow you know, rooks, pawns, everything, it didn't mean too much to them really. It was all about the algorithm, and yeah, I mean, it's just great to see that you know, something that got tested on chess is I mean, obviously it's, you know, it's evolved, I don't know how much, but you know, the basic principles, or at least the you know, the test bed for ideas, that was partly chess, and that's incredible thought really. I'm still you know, it's still you know, that part of the story really, you know, still it makes me, you know, incredibly enthusiastic. Also when you've you know, when you've talked to Demis, and you've talked to the DeepMind technicians, and yeah, just seen their enthusiasm for all this sort of stuff, you know. I mean, it's yeah, it's just really quite incredible. But I do have to say, the first thought I had when I heard about AlphaFold was, you know, ooh, you know, does it play chess at all? But I think, you know, in general, for what DeepMind is focusing on now is science, and you know, applying their algorithms to science, and I think the stuff with games, you know, apart from the stuff with chess variants, which was quite an interesting one as well. But I don't think that or, you know, to my knowledge, I don't know anything about it anymore. But I don't think that AlphaZero is being developed anymore as a chess engine. All of the efforts, I think, are on you know, using their algorithms and their technologies now to tackle the science. Yeah, 2 pawn odds are too much. Apparently, we talked with Terry Chapman. He's a very nice guy, very interesting guy as well. But he said that there was a huge amount of discussion with Gary before the match about which pawns should be offered. And Gary seemed to feel that it made a huge difference which pawns were offered in this handicap match. So those negotiations really took a long time, according to Terry, and I think they chose different ones each time. So FR chess piece odds. What are those, Bolovotar man? FR chess piece odds. Fisher random chess piece odds. Pretty much the same, I think. A piece is a piece is a piece. That's sort of quoting Tony Miles, who used to say a pawn is a pawn is a pawn, which meant that he was willing to grind for hundreds and hundreds of moves if he was a pawn up, and he was very happy to do that. So I was complaining once that you know, it took so long to convert a certain game, and he just said, yeah, but you know, a pawn is a pawn is a pawn, you know. He was great guy, Tony. Incredible to think that I mean, I think he died in 2002, Tony Miles, British Grandmaster, first British Grandmaster, and yeah, world top 10 player, and yeah, I mean, you still see so many of his games and everything. It really is as if he's still alive, and incredible to think that that he died back in, I think it's 2002, 2003. Amazing. So so what have we got whilst I've been talking? Rook b2 has happened, which I don't think was in Leela's PV, so probably Leela's having to think a little bit here. What are we seeing? Yeah, we're seeing some sort of rook ending here in well, it's an extra pawn in a rook ending. I wouldn't Yeah, funny. Again, if I had to, wouldn't be 100% convinced that this is an easy draw. On the other hand, the black king is very active, you know, and you'll get the king round e6 to f5 and be able to push g5. Yeah, probably that's good enough. Wow, I mean, these PVs are quite similar looking now. That's probably because Leela is looking to take action, so looking to play b5 here and liquidate the queen side. Yeah, feeling a bit disappointed about this one. I thought this was going to be this was going to lead to some nice stuff. This one, but just seems to have led to a bit of a correct, interesting chess-wise draw, but nothing to astound the TCEC chatters. So yeah, well, we'll have to hope for some more thrills in the other games. 2001 was it, Patrick? Okay, yeah. I know it was just when I just stopped being a chess professional and heard the news. Yeah, I think A7 and H7 pawn nods. You know, you could even imagine you know, the engines feeling quite happy with that, having their rooks active straight away. But yeah, I think F7 and E7 was Kasparov wasn't at all keen on those. I don't think. I'm not even sure that happened. I think F7 and another pawn was done mainly, but it's yeah. I mean, if you can see them, they're great games. The game that Terry won was incredible, and Gary was apparently, as always, you know, he took it just incredibly seriously, and he was incredibly upset with that game. It was a hell of a roller coaster, that one, but Terry got there in the end. Okay, so b5 played by Leela. So what is Stockfish cooking for us? Bishop e1, f5. Yeah, it's always quite a similar ending here. So we're always, you know, sort of ending up with a pawn up in a rook ending, but I mean, this one's, yeah, I mean, broken pawns, you sort of feel intuitively that it might give you a few extra chances, but it doesn't really tend to. Rook f3, it's just a bit hard to get the king active, and this pawn on e4 is actually, you know, very, very useful to stop the king from activating itself, because basically the only way that White's going to win it is to make a dash for the queen side, and you know, let Black capture all the king side pawns, or maybe a couple of them, and then queen the a pawn in the meantime. I mean, that's why, by the way, you know, it's always recommended to always recommended in these rook endings to put the pawns on f2, g3, h4, because that's going to cost Black the maximum amount of time to capture those pawns. So once your king's running away to the queen side, you're going to go, you know, rook takes f2, then rook g2 takes g3, then rook h3 takes h4. That's going to, you know, make you able to queen the pawns more easily. And it's also a big question about, you know, what's the best passed pawn to have, because if you have a passed a pawn in a rook and 4 versus rook and 3 ending, then the a pawn, that's a very long way for the king to travel. A b pawn is normally, you know, meant to be the golden mean, really. You know, it's far enough away from the black king, but also close enough for the white king to be able to travel there. But yeah, all these positions are looking pretty even. So Stockfish still thinking. Had a little bit of a jump in eval, but now heading right down again. No, pretty impressive. Yeah, slightly confused about those positions really, because yeah, I mean, there's so many sharp lines in the Grunfeld, you know, and adding h6 and h4 really in a lot of lines it really does help white enormously. So quite surprised that this line didn't turn out to be anything special. That's life, I guess. Yeah, yeah, good. I mean, it's. I mean, one thing that I've done recently actually became it was because of the Game Changer project, because AlphaZero didn't just train in chess; it also trained in Go and shogi. And one of the things I discovered was shogi, Japanese chess, and I was quite amazed, to see just that basically draws don't exist there, and you can maybe get a draw by repetition, but it's very, very rare. The concept of offering a draw is completely alien to shogi. I mean, you just couldn't go to a tournament and offer your opponent a draw. It just wouldn't. It would cause a would cause a riot simply. So and also, the game inherently in itself, because it's always recycling. In shogi you capture your opponent's pieces and then you can use them as your own and put them back onto the board. Then that basically means that there's no simplification ever. Just the game keeps on going and going. And I was really amazed by that when I came across it, and I've really loved learning shogi and playing shogi. Recommend it to absolutely anyone. And I think that for chess players, it's relatively easy. A few extra pieces to learn, a couple of extra rules. You've got to get your head around the fact that pawns captured forwards. That's important, and then yeah, and then you're done basically, and there's just a lifetime of fun ahead of you. Shogi's in my mind all the time at the moment, because we play in something called the World Shogi League, so lots of national teams taking on each other, and we're playing Japan at the moment. Not the best Japan players, I do have to say. We're playing for Great Britain, and well, our match is tied at 1-1. So on Saturday the final match is being played. So very exciting, all of that. So Leela thinking about f5, which is also Stockfish's move, and this is going to lead to general liquidation here. So not going to get any thrills this game, it seems. Yeah, I do wonder what. Just looking at the earlier stages here. Let me just have a little look. Import F4. Yeah, I just wonder. I mean, I'm just kind of wondering. It's just that if this is so even for black, then yeah, why don't why don't black players do this in against the normal? For example, in the normal Grunfeld, why aren't black players just playing this move then against the normal Grunfeld? That is actually quite intriguing, because I mean, against all these lines. loads and loads of super sharp things are tried, you know, just to you know, Queen A5 takes A2, all this sort of stuff, and yeah, if no, I don't know, maybe it's something to be investigated simply, you know, for in this line, because this looks like you know, it didn't particularly look like yeah, any either, you know, Stockfish or Leela were ever really in trouble here as black, which, you know, again really surprises me, because you're essentially you know, with this line you're actually playing a sideline of the Grunfeld, and probably one in which you've played a move here that you wouldn't really want to play. So yeah, quite intriguing really. Just quite intriguing what happened there, because yeah, let me just I'm just going to have a quick check of the oh, GUI for shogi, shogi GUI vinyl. Just if you just search for shogi GUI on the internet, and you can just translate the you can just get the page translated if your Japanese is not that good. Wait a minute, I'll just F7. So yeah, this is shogi GUI. This is the one that you need, and you essentially what it looks like is well, I mean, it's just you have to navigate to one of the menu options in order to change it from Japanese to English, and then you're set for life. That's basically the thing. And I think wait a minute, just there's an article on the Dutch shogi website. Shogi GUI. Wait a minute. It was by Twan Berg, who's a chess grandmaster, and he did a whole thing on how to set up shogi GUI. So wait a minute, Twan Berg. Maybe I should search on his name. Twan Berg's quite amazing. He's a chess grandmaster. He's also a very strong shogi player, much stronger than I am. And there we are, Twan Berg. Here we are. How to analyze your games using a shogi engine. There we are. So this is the key one. So if you take a look at this one, how to analyze your games using a shogi engine by Twan Berg, then that's what I used in order to set up shogi GUI, and it works extremely well, I have to say. So yay! And if you're English, then you can play for our team, the Great Britain team. So so yeah, I'm just going to check the normal opening theory here, because I'm just a little bit confused. Let me just put something more interesting on the site while I do that. Just bear with me a few seconds. Just entering that. Castles, rook b1, c5, bishop b2, bishop g4, castles. Yeah, quite interesting. I mean, this this idea that you just play. Sorry, let me just get it. Queen c7 in the normal lines. Barely played ever, but I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking, you know, it could maybe be quite interesting for black to play this way. Just if it works so well, you know, with h4 h6 included, which I think, you know, in general is favouring white, you know. So yeah, could be an interesting novelty for if you want to avoid all the theory, because you know this Rook b1 line is just incredible. You know, you've got all this Queen a5 stuff. Actually, you've got to play Queen a5 a little bit earlier, don't you? Queen a5. All these lines where you know you take on a2. I mean, it's really just amazing, all this theory. So if you could avoid that and just play something solid like this, then yeah, seems quite nice. So I mean, I'd really assumed it was going to be quite clearly better for white, but yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. So what are we getting? I heard a few thumps. Leela is playing f5. So yeah, Stockfish is going to play knight takes c5. We're just going to get to, looks like, if we're looking at the PVs here, we're going to get some sort of ending with, yeah, an extra pawn for white. And it looks like this is one that black can simply hold. So, yeah, extra pawn, it's not never so important with the engines, not when you get to this sort of ending stage. It's... Oh, very nice idea, Gunny. With Fisher Random, you mean? Now that would be quite nice. Though I'm sure that people would prepare the opening positions, and then you know, there might be some that are incredibly favourable for white. Then we might end up getting the same one all the time. Although, I mean, there were supposed to be some positions that were clearly better, but I don't think this really panned out in the Fisher Random tournaments that the TCEC played. It seemed, yeah, didn't seem so clear that that you know, positions which I thought would to be you know, clearly better really were. But all right. Well, I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably stop the stream for a while, because I think it's going to we're just going to we're heading, unfortunately, for an equal ending that's going to take a while to play out. So yeah, I'll probably stream again sometime in the afternoon tomorrow, probably. So tomorrow morning got work, unfortunately, but anyway, on in the afternoon. So yeah, you'll be able to enjoy my my next opening by yourselves. Yeah, it's quite a funny one, I think. So we'll see how that pans out. I did get some very